Ladies and gentlemen, you ever wonder why, just when you're about to rise, when you're about to walk in purpose, that person shows up? The one who talks sweet, looks good, feels right, but something deep inside you knows, this ain't it. This ain't love. This is a test. Let me tell you something. The devil doesn't come with a pitchfork and a red cape. No. He comes disguised as everything you ever thought you wanted. And for divine women, women chosen by God, women with light in their soul and fire in their purpose, the devil sends a narcissist. Why? Because you're powerful. Because you carry something this world needs. Because your calling threatens the darkness. So he sends confusion in a suit. Pain in the form of passion. He sends someone to study your dreams, mirror your light, and once you're vulnerable, drain your spirit, not to kill you. Not to kill you. Oh no, to delay you. Because if he can waste your time, make you doubt yourself, silence your gift, he doesn't have to destroy you. He just has to distract you long enough for you to forget who you are. But I came to remind you, you are not crazy. You are not weak. You are divine. And you are under attack because you matter. The fact that narcissists keep showing up is proof that you're on the right path. They don't come for the broken. They come for the rising. They come for the powerful. They come for the chosen. But here's the good news. When you recognize the assignment, you stop falling for it. When you stop feeding lies with your energy, they lose their grip. That's when healing begins. That's when strength is reborn. That's when God says, and now you're ready. Ready for what's been waiting. Ready for what the devil tried to delay. Ready for the destiny that's been calling your name all along. Don't let that delay become your identity. Don't let a broken person define your worth. You're not what hurt you. You are what survived it. You are not what they tried to take. You are what they couldn't touch. You are divine. You are chosen. And your time is still coming. Because what the devil meant to delay, God is about to deliver. Stay ready. Narcissists are spiritual distractions. They do not just show up in your life to hurt your feelings or waste your time. They come with a purpose, even if they don't consciously know it. They are sent, positioned, and sometimes disguised as blessings when in truth they are barriers. When you're on the verge of something greater, a breakthrough, a shift, a calling, the enemy doesn't always send chaos. Sometimes he sends charm. He sends someone who appears to understand you, adore you, praise you. They study your light, mirror your values, and speak to your soul in a way that makes you believe you finally found safe harbor. But they are not your rescue. They are your delay. Spiritual distractions are the most dangerous kind because they don't always look like trouble. They look like love, like connection, like destiny. And when you are someone with a divine purpose, someone who carries vision, truth, healing, or creativity, your light becomes a magnet. But not everything drawn to the light comes to be healed. Some come to put it out. Some come to feed on it until there's nothing left but confusion, self-doubt, and pain disguised as passion. Narcissists know how to perform love. They know how to show up in the beginning with intensity that makes you feel chosen, special, adored. And that intensity is exactly what the enemy uses to trap the divine. What begins as chemistry quickly turns into control. What felt like admiration becomes obsession. What looked like love becomes emotional manipulation. Narcissists don't love you. They consume you. They're not interested in your soul. They're interested in your light. They're not trying to build a future. They're trying to control your present. And once they realize they cannot fully own your spirit, they begin to tear it down. Piece by piece, slowly, subtly, until you're questioning your worth, doubting your instincts, and blaming yourself for their bad behavior. That is not love. That is spiritual warfare. Distraction is the devil's oldest trick. When he cannot take your gift, he'll try to take your focus. He knows he can't destroy what God has ordained, so he tries to delay it, stall it, misdirect it. And what better way than through a relationship? What better way than through someone you've let into your heart, your mind, your spirit? When the enemy sends a narcissist into the life of a divine woman, he's not just trying to cause a breakup. He's trying to cause a breakdown. He's trying to take a queen and turn her into a shell. He's trying to dim her light so that the world never sees her shine. And yet the most painful part is not the narcissist's deception. It's that you believed in them. It's that you saw their potential. It's that you gave love, time, prayers, and grace, hoping that maybe your light could heal them. But healing was never their goal. They don't come to rise with you. They come to keep you stuck in cycles of apology and betrayal, stuck in loops of hope and disappointment. stuck in the idea that if you love them hard enough, they'll finally become who you thought they were. But narcissists don't evolve. They only adapt. They only morph into whatever image gets them closest to your soul. And once they've secured a place in your heart, the mask falls. You start to see the manipulation, the gaslighting, the control, the passive aggression, the silent treatment, the sudden withdrawal of love to make you chase it. These aren't just toxic behaviors, they are spiritual tactics designed to break your identity, designed to confuse your intuition, designed to make you question whether you even deserve real love. But divine women are not called to tolerate torment. They are not called to be saviors for broken men. They are called to walk in purpose with peace and clarity. And the moment you wake up to the truth, the moment you stop seeing the narcissist as a partner and start seeing them as a spiritual distraction, you begin to heal. The enemy sends counterfeits before God sends the real thing. Narcissists are often the counterfeit version of what you've prayed for. They say the right words, they play the right role. But they lack the spiritual depth to walk with you. They don't feed your spirit. They drain it. And every moment you spend entangled with someone who cannot love you properly is a moment stolen from your assignment. That's what the enemy is after. Not just your heart, but your time. Because if he can make you waste years loving the wrong person, you'll start to believe the right one doesn't exist. If he can delay your healing, he can delay your purpose. And a divine woman who no longer believes in love, in herself, in her calling, she's no longer a threat. But here's what the enemy can't stop: awareness. When you see clearly, you break the hold. When you start trusting your intuition again, you take your power back. When you no longer respond to manipulation, the distraction loses its grip. Narcissists cannot survive where truth is present. Their tactics only work when you don't see them for what they are. The moment you do, the moment you name it, you rise. That is the power the enemy fears. That a woman who has been distracted, drained, and delayed can still get back up, still find her voice, still walk in purpose with fire in her soul and clarity in her eyes. You are not broken because you loved a narcissist. You are not foolish because you gave someone a chance. You are human. You are divine. You are growing. And now you are awake. The pain was real, but so is your power. The delay was real, but so is your destiny. And no narcissist, no manipulation, no spiritual distraction can stop what God has prepared for you. The moment you stop feeding the distraction, the purpose reactivates. The moment you choose peace over chaos, healing begins. The moment you walk away from what drains you, you walk toward what's meant for you. Narcissists are not just emotionally broken, they are spiritually empty, and you were never meant to fill them. You were meant to shine. And when you finally let go of what was sent to delay you, you make space for what was always meant to elevate you. Divine women are targets. Not because they are weak, not because they are easy to manipulate, and not because they're naive, but because they are powerful. Because they are carriers of purpose, light, healing, wisdom, and grace. Because when a divine woman walks in her full truth, she changes the atmosphere. She shifts generations. She awakens others. She disrupts darkness simply by existing. That's why she becomes a threat. That's why she becomes a target, because her presence exposes what is false. Her intuition pierces through lies. Her love restores what others have broken. And her resilience is proof that no weapon formed against her can truly prosper. But the devil doesn't attack randomly. He doesn't waste his energy on those who pose no threat. He attacks the ones who are carrying something, the ones anointed to make a difference, the ones assigned to break cycles, to heal trauma, to speak truth where there has been silence, and divine women carry that assignment. You can see it in the way they walk, the way they endure, the way they continue to pour love even after being broken. You can see it in the way they rise again and again, not because life has been kind, but because they know they were not created to stay on the ground. That kind of woman becomes a battlefield. She becomes a target for narcissists, manipulators, energy vampires, and spiritual leeches. Not because she deserves it, but because she attracts attention. Not just from people, but from principalities. Because her life is marked. Her steps are guided. And the enemy fears what she could become if she ever truly realized her worth. If she ever walked fully in her power. If she ever stopped apologizing for her light. The attacks aren't proof that she's weak. They're proof that she's chosen. People see her strength but often don't understand the weight she carries. They admire her glow but don't realize it was forged in the fire. Divine women are often misunderstood, called too much, too emotional, too intense, too sensitive. But that sensitivity is spiritual discernment. That intensity is passion wrapped in purpose. That too much is exactly what this world needs. And the enemy knows it, so he sends counterfeits. He sends distractions. He sends people to get close enough to her heart so they can disrupt her mind. Because a divine woman, when confused, is easier to delay. When heartbroken, she questions her discernment. When betrayed, she doubts her ability to hear God clearly. That's the plan. Not to destroy her outright, but to create just enough pain to cause disorientation. Just enough trauma to make her shut down. Because when she shuts down, she's no longer a threat. But when she heals, when she opens her eyes, when she remembers who she is, that's when she becomes unstoppable. Divine women don't fall for lies easily, but they fall deeply. And when they love, they give completely. That's what makes betrayal hit differently. It's not just the loss of a person, it's the feeling that their love was wasted, that all they're pouring out was for someone who never intended to pour back. But even in the pain, they rise. Even in the heartbreak, they evolve. Because divine women are alchemists, they turn pain into power and wounds into wisdom. What was meant to break them becomes the very thing that builds them. People often envy divine women for their strength, their intuition, their spiritual awareness. But they don't understand that this strength came with a cost. They didn't wake up this way. They were forged in betrayal, abandonment, rejection, and silence. They became strong because they had to. They became wise because they were lied to. They became intuitive because they couldn't afford not to be. And still they chose love. Still they chose faith. Still they chose to believe in purpose. That kind of power doesn't go unnoticed. It draws both blessings and battles. It draws allies and enemies. Divine women are light bearers, and light always attracts attention, good and bad. It draws those who want to be healed by it and those who want to dim it. And it takes wisdom to know the difference. It takes spiritual maturity to recognize who's sent to support and who's sent to sabotage. That's why the journey of a divine woman is rarely easy. Because she's not just walking for herself, she's walking for everyone tied to her purpose. She carries more than dreams. She carries destiny. She holds space for others even when no one holds space for her. She speaks life into others while silently fighting her own battles. She smiles with grace while wiping tears in private. Not because she's pretending, but because she knows her life is not just hers. She knows there are people waiting for her to become who she was created to be. And that awareness alone makes her a target. Because if the enemy can take her out, he doesn't just stop one woman, he stops a movement. But the truth is, he can't stop her. He can delay her, confuse her, distract her, but he can't destroy what God has ordained, because divine women don't just bounce back. They come back wiser, stronger, sharper. Every lesson becomes a weapon. Every scar becomes a badge. Every setback becomes a setup for something greater. And once she learns the pattern, once she sees that every attack had purpose, she becomes dangerous. Not reckless, not angry, but focused, clear, and fully awake. Divine women are not here to fit in. They are here to disrupt, to elevate, to bring light where there was darkness. And when they walk in that awareness, they walk differently. They speak differently. They choose differently. They no longer settle. They no longer chase. They no longer shrink, because they've learned that being a target is not a curse. It's a calling, a sign that they are carrying something sacred, something the world needs, something hell fears. The attacks don't stop because the calling doesn't stop, but neither does the grace. Neither does the protection, neither does the favor. And divine women know that now. They've cried too many tears, prayed too many prayers, seen too many miracles to still be afraid. They are not perfect, but they are powerful. Not loud, but deeply heard. Not always seen, but always felt. And no matter how many times they're targeted, they will always rise again. With more wisdom, more fire, and more clarity than ever before. Delay is the tactic, not destruction. The enemy often doesn't come to break you all at once. Instead, he works slowly, subtly, methodically. His goal isn't always to destroy your body, your life, or your possessions. His deeper aim is to delay your purpose, to keep you distracted just long enough that you miss the moment you were made for. He's not always trying to bring devastation in the obvious sense. He's more dangerous than that. He works in silence, in time. He steals in small pieces. A year here, a relationship there, a distraction that seems harmless, a detour that looks appealing. Before you know it, you're 5 years behind your purpose and carrying wounds that were never supposed to be yours. Destruction is dramatic. It's loud, but delay is deceptive. You don't notice it happening at first. That's why it's such a powerful weapon. Delay feels like waiting. It feels like uncertainty, like confusion, like indecision. You're not failing, but you're not moving either. You're not broken, but you're not whole. You're not lost, but you're not found. You're just stuck in this in-between space where time is slipping and purpose is growing faint. And that's where the enemy wants you. Not hopeless, just hopeless enough to quit moving forward. He delays you with toxic relationships, people who pretend to be for you, but are secretly pulling you away from who you're meant to become. He delays you with fear. Not fear that paralyzes, fear that persuades, fear that sounds like logic, that whispers, what if you fail? What if they leave you? What if you're not enough? And so you stay put, you don't take the risk, you don't answer the call. You don't launch the dream, write the book, walk away from the thing that's draining you. You wait and wait until your passion starts sounding like a fantasy and your vision starts feeling like a memory. But the real danger in delay isn't just the time you lose. It's what you start to believe while you're waiting. You begin to believe that maybe you're not chosen after all, that maybe the dream was just your imagination, that maybe you misunderstood what you heard from God. Delay creates doubt, and doubt, if left unchecked, will erode destiny. Not because it's taken from you, but because you lay it down. When you're constantly delayed, you lose confidence in your own voice. You start second-guessing everything. You start looking for signs in people who were never sent to guide you. You start building with people who were only meant to pass through your life. Delay tricks you into making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. You start settling for things that don't serve you, staying places that drain you, and investing in people who deplete you. Not because you don't know better, but because the longer you wait, the more tired you become. And when you're tired, you're tempted to choose comfort over calling. That's why the devil loves delay. It doesn't require force, just time. Time to wear you down. Time to blur your vision. Time to let disappointment do the work. He knows most people won't walk away from their calling in a day. But give it enough discouragement, enough heartbreak, enough setbacks, and they'll start walking in circles. Still moving, but going nowhere. Still active, but no longer aligned. That's the trap, the slow drain, the quiet erosion of purpose. And it's not always bad things that cause the delay. Sometimes it's good things, the almost right relationship, the nearly perfect opportunity, the attractive distraction. It doesn't have to be evil to be dangerous. It just has to be off course, and divine delay feels different from demonic delay. One comes with peace. The other comes with pressure. One grows your character. The other drains your spirit. But if you're not discerning, you'll call stagnation a waiting on God when really you're just entertaining a delay you were meant to reject. There's a moment in every divine woman's life when she has to realize this delay is not random. It's not accidental. It's strategic. The enemy sees what's on the other side of your obedience. He sees the chain reaction that your breakthrough will cause. He sees the souls attached to your yes, the healing that will happen through your story, the power that will be unlocked when you finally believe in yourself again. That's why he's working overtime to keep you distracted. Because you stepping into your assignment is more than personal. It's generational. If he can delay you long enough, you'll start thinking small. You'll shrink your vision to fit your circumstances. You'll begin praying safe prayers and calling it wisdom. You'll begin confusing survival with success. You'll start saying things like, maybe it's just not my time. Not because God said so, but because disappointment did. But your destiny doesn't have an expiration date. It's delayed, not denied. The only thing that can truly stop you is your agreement with the lie that it's over. And that's what the enemy is hoping for. Not to take your purpose, but to convince you to leave it behind. Every time you choose to delay what you know God told you to do, you give the enemy a little more ground. But every time you move forward, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite the confusion, you break the pattern. You shatter the illusion. You reclaim the time that was stolen. And you prove that delay doesn't have to mean defeat. Because delay can also be a teacher. It shows you who's really for you. It reveals what you were leaning on that wasn't God. It purifies your motives. It exposes the places where you still need healing. And when used correctly, it makes you sharper, wiser, and more rooted. But that only happens when you recognize the delay for what it is. When you stop being passive with your life. When you stop waiting for permission and start walking with conviction. Delay is a tactic, but it's not the end. You still have a choice. You can get back up. You can move forward. You can say yes again. You can believe again. You can trust that what God put inside you still matters. That the vision is still valid. That your voice is still needed. That the pain didn't cancel the promise. Because the enemy's greatest fear isn't your failure. It's your awakening. It's you realizing that you were never defeated. You were just delayed. And that delay, once exposed, no longer has power over you. Awareness is your weapon. It's not a loud weapon, not one that demands attention or shakes the ground when it moves, but it's powerful beyond measure. It's quiet, steady, and transformative. Awareness is the beginning of every breakthrough, the light that exposes what's been hiding in the dark corners of your life. It's the moment you see clearly, the instant everything starts to make sense. When you become aware, you take back the power that confusion stole from you. You begin to see the pattern behind the pain. You recognize that some of the chaos in your life wasn't random, it was planned. It was orchestrated to keep you stuck, to keep you doubting, to keep you small. The enemy works best in your blind spots. He thrives where you're distracted, disoriented, unaware. As long as you don't see the pattern, you'll keep repeating it. As long as you don't name the deception, it continues to operate without resistance. But the moment you become aware, the game changes. What once had power over you suddenly begins to lose its grip. You start connecting the dots. You see that the narcissist who entered your life wasn't just a toxic person, but a spiritual tactic. You recognize that what you thought was just heartbreak was really a delay. You realize that the confusion wasn't yours to carry. It was placed there to cloud your clarity. Awareness doesn't make the attack disappear, but it disarms it. It takes the sting out of manipulation. It makes you immune to tactics that once made you question your own sanity. You stop explaining your spirit to people who refuse to understand you. You stop making excuses for red flags. You stop praying for clarity over people God already showed you the truth about. That's the shift. That's the moment when awareness becomes your protection. Because once you know better, you can choose better. You stop walking into traps you used to call love. Will you stop entertaining people who don't honor your energy? You stop giving second chances to things you had to heal from the first time. The truth is, you can't fight what you won't acknowledge. You can't heal what you refuse to see. And sometimes that's why the enemy works so hard to keep you distracted. He'll fill your life with noise, with fake love, with temporary highs, just so you don't have the stillness to hear your intuition again, because your spirit knows. Even when your mind is confused, your spirit knows. But when you are unaware, when your eyes are closed spiritually, emotionally, mentally, you will ignore your instincts. You will silence your discernment. You will dismiss what your soul is screaming in exchange for what your heart is craving. Awareness doesn't mean you become bitter. It means you become clear. It means you start trusting yourself again. It means you no longer need someone to validate what you already feel. You know when the energy is off. You know when something isn't aligning with your purpose. And you stop talking yourself out of the truth. That's how you protect your peace, not by controlling people, but by becoming so aware that they can't control you. Some of the most dangerous seasons of your life weren't when you were broken. They were when you were unaware. Because when you're unaware, you tolerate what drains you. You stay in places you've outgrown. You confuse comfort with calling. You think staying quiet keeps the peace, when really it just keeps you stuck. But once you become aware, you stop shrinking. You stop settling. What? You start asking better questions. You stop asking a why did they do this to me? And start asking a why did I keep letting them? Awareness is hard at first. It hurts to see clearly. It hurts to realize how long you tolerated what was meant to be temporary. It hurts to admit how many times you ignored yourself to keep the illusion of love alive. But that pain has purpose. It wakes you up. It sharpens your spirit. It makes you sensitive to things you used to overlook. You no longer need chaos to feel chemistry. You no longer need drama to feel connection. You crave peace because you've seen what distraction costs. And now that you're aware, you move different. You begin to understand that everyone is not for you, and that's not rejection. It's redirection. It's redirection. You realize that some people came into your life to test your awareness, not to stay. And you stop taking it personal. You stop trying to prove your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop fighting battles you were never assigned to. You understand that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's sacred. Because awareness teaches you that your peace is too expensive to be gambled on someone else's dysfunction. And when you grow in awareness, your boundaries get stronger. Not because you're building walls, but because you now see what's behind the smile. You hear what's not being said. You feel what's beneath the surface. You no longer get caught up in appearances. You discern spirit. You no longer believe every compliment. You pay attention to consistency. You no longer fall for potential. You honor alignment. Because awareness helps you see the difference between attention and affection, between attraction and intention. This awareness also stretches to how you view yourself. You stop blaming yourself for the way others mishandled your heart. You stop labeling yourself as broken just because someone couldn't love you properly. You stop defining your value by who stayed or who left. Instead, you become aware of your patterns. You see where your wounds made decisions. You understand why you kept returning to pain disguised as love. You no longer shame yourself for the past. You study it. You learn from it. You grow from it. Because when you're aware, you don't repeat. You evolve, and in that evolution, your standards change, not just in relationships, but in everything. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, your voice. You stop overgiving to people who only take. You stop pouring into cups that never fill yours. You stop performing for acceptance. You know who you are now, and even when you're still healing, you're walking in awareness. You're no longer asleep to your worth, no longer numb to your power, no longer silent about your boundaries. The enemy fears that awareness because an aware woman can't be manipulated. She can't be guilt-tripped into staying where she doesn't belong. She can't be lured back by empty promises. She knows too much now. She sees too clearly. She hears the subtle cues, the red flags and soft tones, the patterns and the pause. She listens not just to words, but to energy. And that awareness builds confidence, not arrogance, conviction. Because when you are aware, you don't just know what to avoid, you know what to protect. You know how rare your spirit is. You understand what your presence carries. You become a guardian of your own peace, your own vision, your own soul. And no one can take that from you, not once you've seen the truth, not once your eyes are open, not once you've tasted clarity. Awareness is your weapon. And once you start using it, you realize that the war you've been fighting wasn't always about others. Sometimes the battle was about keeping you from yourself, from seeing who you are, from believing in your own power, from trusting your own discernment. But now you know, now you see, now you fight differently, and the fight isn't always loud. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply see the truth and walk away. Everything you've walked through, the pain, the betrayal, the confusion, the delay, it wasn't random. It was intentional warfare against your calling. The narcissists weren't just toxic partners. They were distractions designed to pull you away from your purpose. The heartbreak wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual. The delay wasn't denial. It was a strategy to wear you down before you reached your breakthrough. But you're still here, still standing, and now you're aware. You see the pattern. You feel the shift. You've reclaimed your power, your peace, and your voice. You're no longer the woman who tolerates what drains her. You're the woman who protects what she carries. Because you finally understand you are divine, you are chosen, and the moment you woke up to your worth, the enemy lost his grip. Now you move forward with wisdom in your mind, fire in your spirit, and clarity in your soul. What was meant to delay you will now be used to define you. And nothing, no distraction, no delay, no deception can stop what God has already declared over your life.